In this video, we would understand how to do long division when we have a decimal divisor. We know divisor is the number that we use to divide the given number. Let's say we have to divide 5354 with a 0.7. Here in this case also, whenever we are dividing the numbers, first we would consider to put it in the division bracket without any decimals. So we would put 5354 inside because this is the dividend without any decimal, and we have divisor with decimal, but we would put just 7 in there. Now we would divide it as we are dividing with regular 7. So 7 times 7 is 49. When we subtract 53 minus 49 is a 4. We bring this 5 down. Then we have 7 times 6 is a 42. We subtract it, we get a 3. Then we bring this 4 down and we get 7 times 4 is 28. When we subtract 34 and 28, we get a 6. Always remember that if we do not want to leave at a remainder and we want to continue division, but we are not left with any numbers here, then what we have to do is we have to continue by putting a 0 on the right side of the remainder. If we put 0 after 6 here, we get a 60. And when we bring this 0, because the 0 was not part of the question and we brought it somewhere from outside, we put a decimal before proceeding. So any 0 that is brought from outside, we always put a decimal first. Now we put 7 times 8 is 56. We subtract it, so 60 minus 56 is a 4. If we want to further continue this by putting 0, we do not have to put any more decimals now, because decimal is only put when we introduce the first 0 from the air basically. So we always remember that we put the decimal only when we introduce the first 0 from the air basically, because the 0 was not present here. After that, anything we put or any other zeros that we put further, we do not have to introduce any more decimals. So we can just stop here. Now this is the quotient that we got. Therefore we would write down the answer is 764.8. However, this decimal has not been introduced because of this decimal that was in the divisor. This decimal is just part of the answer that we have obtained when we divided 5354 with a 7 and not with a 0.7. So now comes what to do with this decimal, or how to introduce this decimal in the answer. Always remember, in this particular case, we would count the number of decimal places that we have in the divisor. We have one decimal place in divisor because we have one number after the decimal, and we would move the present decimal on the answer the same number of places right. So one decimal place means we would move this decimal one place right, and the decimal is going to come here. Therefore, the answer is going to be 7648 decimal, or when there is a decimal at the end, we do not even have to think of the decimal. We just say 7648 is the answer. Therefore, we can conclude that when 5354 is divided by 0.7, the answer that we get is 7648. Let's do another question for the sake of practice. Let's say we have to divide 28,129 with 1.2. We would just put it considering there is no decimal. So we have 28129 and we would put 12 outside. 12 times 2 is a 24. If you do not know the table of 12, you can use your calculator. When we subtract 28 and 24, we get a 4. We bring this 1 down. 12 times 3 is a 36. We subtract 41 and 36, we get a 5. Then we bring this 2 down. We get 12 times 4 is 48. Subtract 52 and 48, we get a 4. We bring this 9 down. We know 12 times 4 is a 48 again, and we have a remainder 1. We can continue this by introducing a 0 from the air. First 0 from outside is going to bring in a decimal in the quotient. Now we notice that this 10 still cannot get divided by 12. So we need to introduce another 0 that will make this 10 100. Now the second 0 that we have brought, because we have introduced two numbers at the same spot, the first 0 holds for a decimal, the second 0 holds for a 0 there. Therefore, if we want to continue this, 12 times 8 is a 96. When we subtract, we get a 4. We need not go further. Now the result that we got is 2344.08. Now let's consider how this decimal is going to affect our answer. We have one decimal place here. This one decimal place will move our decimal one place right. So the answer that we would get is 23440.8. And this is what is going to be our final answer. Let's see, if we had done this question in a different way that was not introducing a zero from outside, then how would it have looked like? Now we've got this remainder here, 1. If we do not introduce a zero, then we would have to stop here, because the first zero that we introduce, that will bring a decimal here. But since we did not introduce any zero here, we leave the remainder as is. And the result that we have got is 2344. So we would write on the answer as 2344. Then we check that here we have one decimal place. One decimal place means we have to move the decimal in the answer one place right. However, we see that in this particular answer, we do not have a decimal. So if a number has no decimal, means it has a decimal at the end. So that decimal would move one place right, and we would have an empty spot there. Empty spot means we fill up a 0, and the decimal would move here. Therefore, the final answer would be in that case 23440, which is same as the answer that we got in the previous case. That was when we solved the question in a different way. The only difference was that in that case the answer was 23440.8. So it's just an extra decimal number. It's basically more accuracy in the answer in this case than in this case. But for your grade, doesn't matter if you get this answer or this answer, they both are correct.